I've always ran by that.
Got to.
Always ran by that. Okay. Is Drake hip hop?
Man.
Okay. So
Speaking of the next diss.
yeah, because obviously Drake was involved in that record in some shape, form, or fashion. Okay, so I don't know what the name of the podcast is, but
It was like Newfound something. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, it seemed like a pretty good platform, and we always want to big up black creators. So Yasiin Bey, also known as Mos Def, was on a podcast, and he was asked about his thoughts about Drake.
Okay, wait. The podcast is Now Toronto, so that's even worse.
Ooh.
You all in this man neck of the woods,
which makes sense on why he was asked about Drake. Okay, so that makes that makes sense, right? And then Drake had a little bit something to say after this, but we're gonna go with what he had to say first.
Like, is Drake hip hop?
Why are you doing this to me? Drake is pop to me, in the sense like if I was in Target in Houston and I heard a Drake song, it feels like a lot of his music is compatible with shopping.
Commercial music.
Or it's
Commercial music, yeah.
shopping with an edge in certain instances.
Fair. I like Drake's music, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
Of course, I mean,
It's
I get
commercial, entertaining, fun, good,
it's
formulaic music.
It's likable.
Likable music, yeah.
It's likable.
But is it? I'm gonna leave you alone. We're gonna move on.
I'm waiting.
So many products.
So many SKUs.
So many SKUs. Look at all these SKUs. Oh, so many products.
So much merchandising. So
Oh,
many barcodes.
I love this mall. Look at this place. I mean, look at this place. They have everything. Everything's here. They have everything here. Oh, this is great. This is a new Drake. You hear it? It's great. Okay.
Dang.
Oh, there's more. Hold on.
What happens when this thing collapses? What happens when the columns start buckling? Are we not in some early stage of that at this present hour? Are we seeing like the collapse of the empire? Buying and selling, where's the message that I can use?
Right.
What's in it for your audience apart from like banging the pom-poms?
So let's just answer the question flat out.
That's a loaded.
Is Drake hip hop? Yes or no?
You cannot answer that question with a flat yes or no. You cannot.
Don't be scary.
And I want people to understand that I'm gonna get to that question later. Because there's a deeper. And I'm glad I found the extended version of that clip, because a lot of those clips ended before he started talking about the capitalism and empire and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So, is Drake hip hop? Let's stick to the main subject first. I believe I can't answer that with a yes or no. I'm gonna let you answer it. Go ahead, because it's deeper than that. Because it's deeper than that. It's not a black or white yes or no.
I say yes, and I say yes just because I feel like hip hop has evolved in a lot of ways, and I think people don't want to accept it. People want that old ass New York battle. You know what I'm saying? Like they stuck in that, but hip hop has evolved so much along the way, because again, we had the same conversation when you had the Ja Rules and them, having R&B artists on the hooks, and like it just continues to evolve, and people don't want to see it. People don't. We have this conversation anytime somebody starts to do something new.
Okay. I'm going to try to answer this the best way I can, and it's very complicated, but what I believe is this. I think the question is not, is Drake hip hop? I think the question is hip hop hip hop? I think hip hop has evolved into pop.
I could say that.
Mainstream, it is popular, it's commercials, it's more more singing, more melodies, right? I believe that the current state of mainstream hip hop is pop.
And I think that's what happened to R&B is that R&B is like low key like a subset of hip hop. It's like trip hop, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like they're low key like rapping, singing. So they're doing the same thing as hip hop is doing.
Right. Which when you become more mainstream and when you become more commercialized and when you become more capitalistic in nature, then you are going to veer off to what is more what is more profitable. Right? So it is more acceptable, it is more likable. And I think that's what he was trying to kind of pinpoint, but I don't think that's an indictment on Drake. I think that's an indictment on the genre in general, is that it has become more pop.
But I think people feel like Drake is the one who kind of like how they blame T-Pain for auto-tune, like you ushered it in.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. And I also think it's fair to say that his music is formulaic. Now, I don't think it was when he first came out, but it is now. But when you have Apple and Universal and all these bigger companies behind you, they're not putting $20-30 million into you and not expecting their return. So you are going to have to be more. You are going to have to cater more to the masses. So yes, he's pop, but he comes from hip hop. I think he has hip hop roots. But if I were to label him today, I would say that he's pop. I think when he first came out, he definitely had more of a personalized message than he does now. I think now it is more fitting in with whatever is culturally hot, what is trendy, right? So I agree with what he's saying, but I also will say you cannot deny that he does come from hip hop. But yeah, he is more popish now. But again, I think that's an indictment on the entire culture. Now, I think what's interesting is the last part of that conversation, where almost comparing it to like an empire falling, like Rome, right? Where I think we all do see that. I see it for sure, that there has been a dramatic, and I think that we had this conversation maybe 2 episodes ago, that there's been a dramatic drop off when it comes to artistry, when it comes to messaging, when it comes to creativity, when it comes to the attention to detail for people's art. I do see that. And at some point, and I would even say that it's even here today, a lot of people are not, it's very microwavable music that we're listening to the fact that I think we had a conversation where Kendrick basically said that he's close to retiring because he feels like the effort he puts into the music is not appreciated.
I definitely could say that.
But at the same time, you also have to look at who is the main audience. The majority of the consumers of the audience are white people. So hip hop historically was a message for inner city Black and brown people.
When I tell you, like, I'll have to agree with what you were saying as far as like we're not the target audience, is when I went on that cruise. And like when we only went to the club like one night, you know, we old. But when we got up in there, when they started playing like the Sexy Reds and the, you know, all of that, baby, the white people filed to the floor. Filed. Wasn't us, it was them. Like, and I'm like, what song? I ain't never heard. Some of the songs I ain't never heard this. They know it. Baby, they know it.
Yeah.
And they up there dancing bad. Just let that coochie breathe. Hands on your knees. I'm like, well, so you need to get that Kev on stage for Black people anyway.
I'm definitely gonna add that in.
But yeah, no, I feel you on that.
We are their entertainment.
Yeah.
No matter how low vibrational it is. And they don't care because it's not about them.
It's kind of like how, you know, the women that'll be dancing, you know, 3-6-9, damn, he ain't talking about me. If you feel like it ain't about you, you don't care how, you know, offensive it is. Because it's like, he ain't talking about me, he talking about somebody else.
You don't care what the lyrics say. And we're to the point where people don't even listen to the lyrics. They just want to know what the hooks say.
And, you know, it was that one song, she gonna be okay, all she needs is a D. That song, it was a TikTok sound.
Yep.
I didn't even know that. I finally heard that whole song.
The whole song, yeah.
And so it's like, as long as you got one catchy TikTokable part, you in there.
Yep.
Because that's the only part of the song I knew, and I was like, "Oh, it's a whole song."
To this day, I've never heard the whole song of that.
I literally just heard it like yesterday.
Yeah.
It was on one of those like carousels of R&B songs, and I was like, "What?" It's crazy. And it's about what is going to go off on TikTok. I promise you, it is.
Or what can be commercialized, like that song that's on that new Apple commercial. It's going up. You haven't seen it? Where is there advertising the new iPhone 15, like how long the battery lasts, and there's like outlets that are singing a song.
You haven't seen it yet?
Okay. Well, I don't know what the artist's name is, but like I was scrolling through and they were like, that song is super catchy, so people were looking for it. So now like that song is going up just because it was on Apple. Never like was it 2023? 30 years ago, you would have never ever thought that a hip hop song would be on an Apple commercial.
Yeah, the placements that it's getting is kind of
never would you have ever thought that hip hop would be played during the NBA Finals, or that you would have a Snoop, Dr. Dre halftime show during the Super Bowl.
Well, because we came up in a time that hip hop, like white people was trying to save their children from hip hop.
Yep.
And it was like hip hop is causing violence and it's causing murder.
Yep.
Yep.
Because that was the Super Predator era. That was the gangster rap is the devil era. And now it's like, nigga shoot nigga, I'm going to shoot you up. Oh, that's on a commercial. like, so us killing each other is now commercialized?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah, it just shows you how desensitized we've been. And again, just a lack of creativity, lack of artistry. So I do feel like what he's saying is true. But I think it's a little unfair to say that he's not cut from the hip hop cloth, because he is. Drake is.
He is. Absolutely.
He's just, again, but he, when you have companies like that backing you, you got to recoup. You got to recoup. You ain't gonna be able to just put out what you want to put out.
Yeah, you don't have as. I wouldn't say. I don't know. I think Drake got some control, but
I think he has some control
to an extent still.
But they get the final say on what gets put out and not.
I think too, like we talked about, like artists being able to be artists and being able to explore different genres. I feel like you have to have that too. Like we can't say that, you putting out the same thing or this or that, but not let artists explore what they craft.
Yeah, but I think you have to have the freedom to be able to do that. I don't know if Drake has that. And if you think about it, his range, it's always been women.
Yeah. It's like, if you're going to ask if Drake is hip hop, then, we going to ask if Beyonce is R&B.
Well, I feel like...
Is she?
I think she has a lot more control over her visuals and her art, and like how you watched that movie. I didn't get to watch it, but I got to watch some of the behind the scenes. She is very much more of an artist, just because to her...
I'm talking about with music, though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it seems like you got to start in a box and you got to stay in that box to stay. You know what I mean? I feel like Beyonce has had R&B albums, but she has put out dance albums. She's put out, you know what I mean?
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah. I think people don't mind experimentation and being creative. I just think when you have, like with Drake, when it's more of a formula, I think that's when people have the issue, because it's like you're not really trying things.
It's not authentic.
Yeah, it's not authentic. It's more, this is what worked. This is what has been working, and it's, and I'm just saying this just for an example, but like I've been in the studio where like people would say, oh yeah, so it has to be verse, hook. And then like I will come in and be like, well, who's to say that there's a standard way to do a song? Well, that's how we always do it. I'm like, but if it doesn't fit with your if it doesn't fit with your vision, it's still a standalone piece of art. So if you want to go no hook, don't do a hook. If the song is only 2 minutes, song only be 2 minutes. If the song is 8 minutes, be 8 minutes. But I will be in the studio where people be like, oh, it has to be 5 minutes. Says who? And it's like, now instead of you fulfilling your artistic vision, you are now trying to confine that to a formula.
What works,
right? The same thing. And for those that don't know music, the same thing with the essay. I think we can all relate to this. We've all written an essay where we had a really good idea and we had to stretch it to fit what the teacher asked us to do.
Mm-hmm.
We had to fit it to the 500 words, even though the point we were getting across fit within 300.
Mm-hmm.
But because the expectation was 500, then we got to throw in little fillers and add a little BS in there, and then it dilutes the message on what you were trying to say.
I see what you're saying.
So, yeah.
I gotta agree with you on that. And I love Drake, but I feel like I like Drake, I like Nicki, but I just feel like, with who you like, they're not above criticism.
No, and honestly, Drake is needed. Like, we need different types of artists and different types of, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't all have to be the same. There has to be some diversity.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's kind of like Drake. Like I said, if you compare with Drake with Beyonce, as far as like they open up the lane for other people to try different things. You know what I mean? In a way.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you seen it with Beyonce putting out her album, and then now you see kind of like Ariana Grande kind of put out her little thing, and I'm like, it's giving Beyonce influence, Beyonce inspired. Her new song for sure.
Oh, for sure.
So you need those big artists that could kind of like set the tone in a way.
Yeah, and I mean, but we can see the footprint of the Beyonce. I mean, and for Beyonce, it's not just because of her commercial success; it's because of her artistry, right? I think with Drake, a lot of the footprint we see, like other people copying Drake, is because he's successful and not because of other things. So
of the actual, influence. No, I feel you on that. Oh man. So what we getting into for the relationship advice? I think it was the conversation that